This one's interesting, guys. It's been a while, because for the last 2 years, I've been in grad school. That's why I look like I just emerged from a bomb shelter after 2 years. I've been studying international relations in that department, looking at things like, I've been led to things like lethal autonomous weapons systems, which are really freaky, and I'll get into that later. But within that, specifically, sometimes I'm looking at UAVs, unmanned aerial vehicles. That's something like surveillance drones. That's a good example. Sometimes in this literature, surprisingly, or not surprisingly, these unmanned aerial vehicles are also unidentified aerial vehicles. In other cases, they don't even know if they're vehicles. In which case they call them UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomena, which is government speak for UFOs. So I call my advisor and I'm like, look, I don't know what to do here. This is where I'm being led. I'm being led down this path to UFOs, and I don't want it to seem like, can I write a paper on this, basically? And he said, yeah, look, if the literature is there, then follow it. Sure enough, the academic literature is abundant. It's there. It's real.
Look at this thing. It's rotating.
So it's not us.
Oh, by the way, has no obvious signs of propulsion, no wings, no control surfaces, and yet still can defy the natural effects of Earth's gravity.
Originally, I was just looking into national security threats and global security threats in the form of something called laws. Not laws, not those things that you and I have to follow, but people in power don't. Not those laws. I'm talking about lethal autonomous weapons systems. Killer drone swarms, slaughter bots, unmanned aerial vehicles that are smart enough to seek and destroy their target without human interaction. I mean, they're programmed and they have sort of a code or structure to follow, but once you set them free, they go. UAVs are a growing problem because they're capable of doing things that maybe a person wouldn't want to risk doing. So they show up in precarious places, usually military installations. As I was sort of following a thread of research, I was looking at specific UAV events. A lot of them seem to be spending time around nuclear facilities, which isn't all that strange. I mean, it seems there's a lot of technology in nuclear that maybe one adversary wants to spy on of their enemy, and they'll fly over the installation, and if you do it with an unmanned aerial vehicle, you can get footage, and someone could blow up that vehicle, no lives lost. Except that in a few cases, it's been very strange. There was a case in South Carolina, for example, where a UAV was flying over a nuclear facility. No one knew what it was, where it came from, or what its objective was. It just seemed to be hovering over the facility. They could never identify it, so it was technically an unidentified aerial vehicle. And in another case, even more strange and actually scary, there were 13 UAVs flying over 13 nuclear facilities in France. So 13 of their 19 nuclear facilities' airspace was being violated simultaneously over hundreds of miles. And nobody knows who was doing it, or where they came from, or where they went. So again, unidentified aerial vehicles. And so I started to follow this thread further. So it turns out UAVs are very often linked to or a part of what the government calls UAP. UAP is unidentified aerial phenomena, or what us lay people often call UFOs. So we all know what that means.
Extraterrestrial contact.
UAV, UAP, there was this really tight connection. It led me to, of course, the New York Times article from 2017, spearheaded by Kean. She basically had videos leaked to her from Chris Mellon, this guy.
So it's not us, that's one thing we know. It's bizarre and unfortunate that someone like myself has to do something like that to get a national security issue like this on the agenda.
So she drops this bombshell article and shows one of these videos, now very famous, the Nimitz video.
That's no, is it? It's not. That is the one I understand. Well, if there's another thing, it's rotating.
This is starting to be more of a discussion, actually, with serious people involved.
It continues to be unexplained, and might in fact be some type of phenomenon that is the result of something that we don't yet understand, and that could involve some type of activity that some might say constitutes a different form of life.
I think he's basically trying to say, yeah, we might be screwed. And of course, most famously at this point, I think, is Luis Elizondo, who was a former director of ATIP, the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program. There's so many acronyms. I know that you're probably lost. I'm going to put everything in the description below. So if you want the sources, if you want to see how this threat happened, it's all there. Anyway, ATIP, he's leading this. It's a secretive program. It's a $22 million black budget, meaning it was basically just hard to find, is through the Pentagon, and it was to fund this research.
Imagine a technology that can do 600 to 700 G-forces, that can fly at 13,000 miles an hour, that it can evade radar, and that can fly through air and water and possibly space.
Luis Elizondo writes this kind of epic resignation letter and just basically says, people are being closed-minded. There's something insane happening here, something crazy that we're seeing appear over our naval ships and our bases and our nuclear facilities. Nuclear facilities. Again with the nuclear facilities. What is going on with nuclear facilities? So the theories range all over the place, from benevolent extraterrestrials.
The fact is, they have shown remarkable restraint, almost a level of a Gandhian pacifism, not to have pushed back. So the threat isn't extraterrestrial, the threat is covert human.
Attempting to save us from our own destruction, to something in nuclear science has opened a portal.
An extraordinary opening in space or time that connects travelers to distant realms. A good portal is a shortcut, a guide, a door into the unknown. If only they actually existed. It turns out that they do.
Magnetic reconnection, powerful explosions that occur when magnetic fields collide and realign.
And that's why they're appearing near the nuclear sites. There's a lot of weird theories, but one of the strangest things I came across that I don't even know what to make of it or do with it is the fact that there are, or have been, people in the intelligence community and the government who don't want to, look into this phenomena because they think it might be something like demons. Yeah, demons.
UFO behavior is more akin to magic than to physics as we know it, and that modern UFOnauts and the demons of past days are probably identical.
That makes the extraterrestrial hypothesis even more compelling, actually. It's like, well, compared to demons, this seems much more likely. But the simple fact that this phenomena has been picked up on both radar and footage is enough alone for scientific inquiry, more than other things, such as the study of God. Somebody who really nailed this theory down is Alexander Wendt, very famous IR scholar, international relations scholar.
I'm well known in my field of international relations, and I have a serious reputation that I have no intention of squandering today.
He's a kind of a father of constructivism, which is a very famous and popular theory within IR, who wrote this paper called Sovereignty in the UFO. He goes on to sort of point out that there's a danger to this research, because if we find there is something beyond us that's intelligent, and we find that it's more advanced than we are, whatever it is, that upends everything that we have going for us in terms of the human hierarchy, or even the current unipolar world where the US kind of runs the show. Essentially, our sovereignty as the US, as the power of the world, would be undermined because there's a thing in the sky and it's greater than we are, in a sense. We are then therefore kind of subservient to whatever that power is beyond us. And I guess if I had like a sort of happy, cheesy ending to this, I would say, I think anything that keeps our eyes to the stars and our mind beyond our own human ego is a good thing, actually. Just to ponder something that could be beyond us. I think that's a healthy thing. And it for now, as long as we know this isn't a hostile thing, or it hasn't so far been hostile, apparently, you can be filled with wonder, which in this world, I think we could use more of that.